Hello, everyone. I hope everybody's summer is going well. I want to start by acknowledging our facilities staff for all the hard work that's taken place over the summer to maintain and upgrade our buildings and prepare for the start of the year in a few weeks. It takes a ton of effort to keep our campuses looking beautiful, and I know some extra hours were put in, and given the weather outside, may continue to be put in to handle some of the things that have happened because of the recent storms. So thank you to all the facilities folks for all of that work. Also want to acknowledge, given the agenda tonight, the work of our policy committee over this last month. So Hillary and Kaylee and Dr. Ackerman did a lot of work for a bunch of new policies that are going to get discussed this evening. Some of them are new, some of them are updates to existing ones. So thank you for doing that. And then finally, I also want to acknowledge Andrew Corsilli, who is not here tonight, and our building leaders, because there's been a whole bunch of talent search work that's gone on here over the summer. We've got an impressive set of individuals being recommended tonight to join the district team. We all know CCSD is a great place for people to work. A lot of people want to work here. That means it takes a lot of effort to go through the process of kind of thoroughly vetting everybody and make sure we get the best people. So thank you to those people as well. And that is my president's update. Dr. Ackerman.
All right, so we are tonight on the agenda, coupled with the calendar approval, is an SMOA with the teachers union to add conferences as a pilot in the spring for our elementary families. And this really responds to our strategic plan and feedback that we've received from our families that they, particularly at the elementary level, is around having a better understanding of how their kids are progressing. And so trying to figure out how to do this at this point through this SMOA is advantageous for us because we are going into negotiations and the contract does have language in and around conferences, which is why we have to do this through like a side agreement with the CCT. So this is what we've agreed upon for our first attempt at trying to make this happen for our families. So first of all, on the 28th will be a half day, and then the 31st is already a superintendent conference day. So those will be the days that the parent-teacher conferences will happen. They're going to be condensed, so they should not need to be as long as they were in November. And they're going to be optional for parents. They don't have to go to the conference if they don't have any concerns. They don't need to come in to meet the teacher. That usually happens in November. And the teachers would like to provide for our families a Zoom-in option. They don't normally do that, but they want to do that for these conferences so that it's convenient for families. Plus, I know that the 31st is a holiday for some of our parents as well, so we have to make sure that we're accommodating that. And so based on this adjustment, November will be the conferences. January, parents will receive a report card, which we've updated to be more aligned with our standards. So parents will see a new version of our report card. We'll talk about that when parents come in and return back to school. March will be the parent-teacher conferences, and then June will be a report card. So we'll see how this model works, and then we'll make decisions about next year's calendar after we get through this spring pilot program. So I feel pretty good about it. I'm glad the CCT felt like this made sense for our families. We've been talking about this since I've been here. And so I'm happy to present that SMOA for your consideration. That actually came out of a conversation that Hillary, Kaylee, Andrew, Brian, Mike, and I were having together. So I'm happy we're able to get to the point where we're able to present that tonight for your consideration.
I just want to say how excited I am about this, especially when it came out of that meeting that we were having. And also because I think any opportunity that parents have, I know it's being offered as an optional conference, but any opportunity, like a formal opportunity that the district provides where parents and teachers and administrators can meet to talk about their students, I think is a win for us. And so I really appreciate that. My only thing is I wish we would have it for the other levels as well. I just, but who knows, maybe we can do that in the future. But I'm really excited about it because I do think it's hard in November. September, October, and then November, we're off a lot and a lot of half days and whatnot. And it's hard to kind of, unless you know the child from previous years, it is hard. And then not to have any other communication. Of course, you can always reach out, until after, I mean, really, that's it. You only have that one formal meeting and then it's over. And then, so, I really am excited about this and really appreciate that. Um, and hopefully it works well.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kelly. All right, so now I want to talk about our heat alleviation plan. So I'm presenting 2 adjustments to the plan based on what happened at the end of the school year. And this is only until we're done with our AC expansion. So what happened the last full day of school is that the heat index went over 96 because we monitor it all day long, because once it hits 96, kids have to come inside. It went over really early before 11 o'clock. And then and it didn't go back down. And so what happened was we had multiple classrooms at the elementary level go over 85. Our gyms went over 85. I think some of them hit 90. And so we had a lot of kids in the cooling spaces, and we just, it's fine. We supervised everybody, but the learning wasn't happening the way that parents would expect us to be able to support their kids, because we just didn't have enough cooling spaces. And I'm saying that was really evident at the elementary level, not so much at the middle school level, but I do believe that if the high school was open, and remember we had exams, we'd have a similar problem here that we did at the elementary level. And so what I'm suggesting, and I would like everyone to think about, is that if the heat index is going to reach 96 degrees or higher by 11 o'clock, that I call and it's going to stay there. Like there's no there's no rain coming, that I call an early dismissal for students only, because at that point, all the activities need to be canceled. And we wouldn't, we just wouldn't be able to accommodate the kids in the way that we would want to optimally. But in that situation, our staff will remain on site and they'll be able to work because they can be in the air conditioned spaces because there's not as many of them. And so if I feel like we're going in that direction, I'll let parents know the night before that I might have to call one, and then I'll make the call by 9. But I wouldn't make the call the night before because things change. And so that, I know this would be a burden on families. So
And
that,
Christine, you're not calling it on a per building basis. You
no,
call
it'd
it
be everybody would be off. And so that would be the first part. The second part is, and this we actually have to change, because I didn't realize this, but we have an 85-degree indicator for our rooms, but really the gyms need to, like, if we need to be able to hold our indoor sports. So even if our gyms were to hit 85, we can't cancel our games, because we can only cancel our games if they hit 96. So I have to make an adjustment to the language to reflect the NISBA heat guidance for after school activities, so that we're not canceling sectional volleyball games when we should be playing because we haven't hit the threshold. So I need to work on that as a part of the plan. But the big part of this, the big decision is this right here. And so I know that other school districts, some school districts, they early dismissed. Other school districts like us stayed open and sweat it out. And other school districts have air conditioning fully, so they don't have a problem, but we do have a problem. So I want to hear everyone's thoughts on this, and I think we should come back to it at the next meeting.
So we'll welcome comments from the community around this topic, and I'm pleased to see, Christine, that you're interested in expanding your meteorological services that you're offering in addition to the snow calls that you make. Yeah. But yeah, comments or questions? Yeah.
Well, so you are maintaining discretion if you foresee the index potentially dropping. It's not an immediate 96 in between that window and we're going home.
Right, because like, let's say it's predicted to be 96 degrees at 11, but then
Sure.
at 12, it's going to be 70 because it pours. It would only be if there's no indication of any kind of relief.
I also think it would be helpful and instructive, because not everybody is aware, just to touch on what the AC expansion is going to look like.
So in the elementary and middle schools, and right now we're doing work to prepare for the incorporation of air conditioning in the cafeteria and in the gyms. but it will not be ready until the spring semester that's anticipated. Once that happens, we don't need to do this. We have enough big spaces to handle everything. In in Bell and in Seven Bridges, it's the cafeterias and the gyms. And they'll be fine. And then here, it's all of L building, the cafeteria and the gyms.
So theoretically, this is for the first few weeks of school this year, assuming that the project is completed as
Well,
as anticipated.
Year, I'm not like, I mean, it'd be great if this air conditioning project was done.
Well, right now the date is the spring.
Right now, I would be, well, we only have, the elementary projects are underway. The middle school and high school projects are not because they haven't been approved yet by the state. So I know how upset people get when I dismiss early. So I'm not saying this casually at all. I was like, we gotta stay open. While
People
others
also
were
get
early
upset when
dismissing.
it's 100 degrees in the
Yeah,
classrooms
so
too.
like I understand like that. So I don't want people to feel like I'm just saying, well, I've thought a lot about this. I was in all the buildings. I saw what was happening. And we managed it. We absolutely managed it, but it really wasn't, I do think there are certain times that
Well, if the kids aren't learning, what's the
Right,
point?
it's not ideal. Right.
everyone was doing their best.
Well, it's also
It's
like
a question of
safety.
a little bit.
Yes,
Yeah.
so.
Like, it's, we cancel school when it's snowing because it's not safe for the buses to be on the roads,
Right.
right? We cancel, like, the weather is changing around here, right? Like, I don't remember too many elementary school days in the eighties when we thought we were gonna melt to death. Like, that last Friday, I think the middle school students might disagree that it was better at the middle schools.
know.
I think that Friday was probably the worst day I can remember in terms of what was going on in this building. But I think that the way you set it up with tying it to this metric of the heat index, which is linked to what we're supposed to be doing already for the sports, makes a lot of sense because it gives us a good data point that's not, it's a feels like, it's
Yeah.
the real feel of being in the buildings, experiencing that heat. So I think that makes a lot of sense. But I think that we need to have this in place because it's not safe or healthy for our kids to be in an environment that's that.
That has never happened before. It's
No.
never gotten that hot since I've been here in the rooms when the kids were here.
And now that we have a plan, maybe it won't again.
Yeah.
And
And
With the AC expansion, when it's completed and we have more spaces for everyone to go, you don't foresee having to do this
no,
again
we
in the
wouldn't,
future.
I wouldn't do this.
Because you can still support the learning even when the cafeteria and the
Yes,
gym.
yes, you can have all the kindergartners in your cafeteria and you could still do work with them in there. You can have a whole pocket in the gym, you can have a pocket in the Global Learning Center. Like, we can do it. We just couldn't do it.
Without the
On that
AC
Friday.
expansion. Right.
But I also, I feel like I have to let people know in advance.
No, I think it's a smart plan.
I
I think that
agree.
we don't want to be letting out all the time. And because I know working parents, it's really hard for them, but when days are that extreme, it's the right thing to do.
All right, we'll see I think we should see what comes in.
Let's
Right.
see, yeah,
And,
any members should feel free to write to us about what you think about this.
But I think for sure you need to layer in the call the night before
Yeah.
to allow people to know that it might be on the.
I can
radar.
even just, I can,
Sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know they do. Okay, so I did want to, I know we have two new policies, but we do have two policies we're doing updates on. So I just want to present those in the superintendent's report. So we had some advocacy from the students in the spring on the track team to make some adjustments to the transportation policy. So we ran a pilot with the tennis and the track team in the spring. And so now, and that worked. So now we have some proposed adjustments to this particular policy for our kids who are traveling to district-sponsored activities or events. And really, this is focused on our high school student athletes at the varsity level, because everyone else doesn't, they're not in a situation where this would really apply. And so let me just, there's coming to the event and then there's going home from the event. And there's a lot of restrictions in place about how kids can travel to an event that's given to us by New York State educational law. And kids can only travel to an event if their parent brings them there. You can't have your aunt, your uncle, your babysitter, your friend bring you to an event. And I even wrote the law in there so people could look it up because I know how people like accurate information here. And so what the track students were saying is that they wanted their parents to bring them to the event because the bus was leaving at like 9 a.m. and they weren't running until like 4 p.m. And it so happened that this happened to be on a Friday that was a school day, but we didn't have enough flexibility in this policy to allow that to happen. Now there has been flexibility in the policy where if there was like an extenuating circumstance, like you had the SAT, you had a doctor's appointment, something like that was happening, that the athletic director could permit that, but we didn't have anything that would allow for the situation that I just explained. And so this policy has been revised to allow for that. And we've done that through this language that says, it's in the box, second paragraph. When there is a significant discrepancy in start times between individual student athletes, approximately 3 hours in length on a weekend or weekday event starting before 11 a.m., or a unique conflict, like a college board assessment, administrator may consider written requests from parents or legal guardians to drive students to contests themselves. And these requests must be at least made in writing at least 48 hours in advance. And what this also does is talks about how the statutory language prohibits alternative drivers who are not the parents or legal guardians given of a student from driving students to events when the district is providing transportation. Now, what's not up here is the policy also, and this is not a new part of the policy, allows for third parties to bring students home from events because the board, you all approved that last year because you felt like we needed to have flexibility in that policy for parents, particularly like when kids were at a basketball game across the bridge and they couldn't make it and kids wanted to get home. And so that's all set up and that's been working really well for us. But we didn't have, we felt like we needed to have a different process for kids to be able to get to events. So this solves that all. So are there any questions on this? So if there's any feedback anyone wants to give us before we present this at the next meeting, that would be great.
Sometimes we'll pass a policy and think it makes sense, and then something's brought to our attention where there's something that doesn't work or doesn't make sense, and just for people to continue to do that because these do evolve and we will look at them and make modifications. And this was a situation that we hadn't anticipated, but when it was brought to our attention, we addressed it, and I think this is better policy.
I will say, in no circumstances are kids allowed to drive themselves or drive their friends home from anything. That's never going to be allowed here. I just need to clarify. Okay. All right. So now facilities use. So every year you approve the fees. And so the fees that we're suggesting are increased 3.9%, which aligns with the CPI in May. So when you increase fees, you have to have like a method to do it. You can't just say, we're going to increase everything by $5. So the policy committee met with Josh and with David, and we felt like this was probably the most appropriate way to increase our fees. And it's it's a real nominal increase. You can look at the differences between this year and last year. And it aligns with an increase in our expenses. I think the big part of the facilities process and what we're asking the board to consider, and this is again a first reading of a policy that already exists, is if you look at the bottom, we've added language. And we've added this language based on feedback we received from families that were upset with some of the registration process, the registration process that were for outside organizations using our facilities. And so what we did was we added 2 bullets. The first was that all organizations using our facilities, CCSD facilities, must ensure equitable registration access for all school district residents. And so that's the first bullet because we have a whole bunch of things that happen here that aren't just kid related. So we felt like if you're going to use our facilities, that anyone in our community should have the right at the same time to register for that particular event or activity if there isn't a period, right? Because everyone's paying for our facilities who lives here. And then we added another bullet that addresses the school year specifically. And it says all organizations using our facilities from September 1 to June 30th must allow equal registration access for all registered students who attend our schools, because we do have kids that attend our schools who aren't residents here, but we didn't want to have anyone have a two-tiered system of who can have access to activities that happen in here. So this would be for everyone. It would be for outside organizations, the PTA, sports boosters. Like, we felt like if, for all of our kids, we wanted it to be equal. And then we felt like for any other activities that involve our residents, like the summer programs, all of that needed to be equal. But our students who go here who aren't residents shouldn't have equal access to summer programs that happened here, because they're not here during this. We just felt like that was not that was an overreach. And so anyone have any feedback you want to give Hillary and Kaylee or me on this? Yes.
Summer, you're not.
Right.
Yes. Right. So there are kids who go there.
Yeah.
If they have hired through the CCSD school district because they have a residence or resident.
To be clear, even if they live in Mount Pleasant.
Right,
Mhm.
right,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, there can't be a two-tier registration system for our residents. But then we also added that second bullet, because during the school year, there can't be a two-tier registration system for residents and then all the students who go here or aren't residents. We don't want that. We don't want that either.
I think though, I know this was in response to what happened in the town with the rec and like the summer camp and all of that, but I do think, and I could be wrong, and I'm sure somebody will call me if I am. I do believe the town recently passed a resolution to consider all CCSD registered families as CCSD, as Newcastle residents, only for this, yes, for that, the town registration. And so I think that that resolves, so it's sort of like a double,
I don't know if that happened or not.
protection
It might
for,
have
I
happened.
think that's what happened, is what I heard, but I did not verify. So I don't usually like to say things without knowing
Well, at least with
100%, but
this, it's when we're using our fields, we're taking care of our.
right. But I think the town also wanted to do the same and had just
Great.
recently passed a resolution,
that'd be great.
something of that sort.
That would be great if they did that.
Yeah.
I think it's good for us too to have this in our
Right,
policy. So,
right, agreed.
because what happened the last time is I had all these parents contacting me and I was like, I want to, if we're anchored into something, then it would be helpful
Yeah.
for there to be clarity around what we expect if people are using our spaces. So,
So I do
Great.
think, it's nice. I think whenever possible, not whenever, we should always strive to try to work with not only the community members that are upset, but really just thinking about the whole community and working with, town board and, all the people that are in our community, and sometimes things will not feel fair, but I think, this is a step towards showing people that we are listening and we do care. And so I appreciate it.
okay. So that'll be on the next agenda for your consideration for adoption if we don't get any feedback that would warrant a change to that. And then the last thing I just wanted to share with you is that, they're looking at changing the foundation aid formula. So we have submitted a letter on the district's behalf. The concern that we have, and that what almost happened this past spring, is that they changed the formula and we took a big cut to what we were expecting without enough notice. And so Josh and I had crafted something with David's help to try to give the Rockefeller Foundation that is studying this just some language around what we'd want them to think about and then some recommendations around what would be helpful for us, and then just a minimum, like if you're going to cut our age, you gotta please allow us to have it be excludable in the tax levy limit so that we would be able to account for that. And we would only need that in the first year. We could account for that deficit as we're planning forward, and people don't wind up in the same situation that resulted in that huge response because they were suggesting an adjustment without giving us enough notice. So this is on our website. Josh and I've also sent it to some of our partner people that we work with on our particular issue. So I did want to just share that with everybody. And then the final thing is on the agenda tonight, we made some SRO adjustments. Edison, who was our SRO at the middle school, has been promoted to sergeant, which is great. And so Tom, who is at the elementary schools, is being recommended to move up to the middle schools. And then we're going to welcome Josh Howard to the elementary schools as the new school resource officer starting in September. And part of our contract has the board acknowledging Josh as the new SRO in the district. And I know our administrators and I know some of our board members have had the opportunity to meet with Josh before this recommendation tonight. So we're excited to have him on our staff. And then I just wanted to highlight, we're getting ready, new family orientation. Here it comes. Sports registrations are open right now for high school students, and locker clean out. All the dates are starting to roll, and the next time that we'll be meeting together will be after we've opened for our faculty and superintendent conference day on the 29th. So that's the end of the superintendent's update.